Hey guys, welcome to my channel where we talk about writing and books and reading and editing and publishing and all that jazz. Children may or may not be featured. Enjoy! Hey guys, so today I wanted to share the origin story to Far Below Human Eyes. It's not something that I've shared very often, and very few people have heard the full story. So I just wanted to share it with you guys today and hopefully encourage you guys to write and publish your own books. But before I tell you about how I turned a handwritten copy of a story into a published book, I just wanted to update you guys. So, I'm giving out a free gift to all my email subscribers, and I have about 50 people signed up right now. So they're all gonna get the gift. But if you guys want to sign up, all you have to do is go on my website, which is annabellehealy.com. And on that first homepage, there's a little bar where you can enter your email and it says subscribe. So if you enter your email and subscribe there, I will send you an email where you can gain access to this free gift. And I'm not telling you guys what it is yet, but it has something to do with me picking what dragonfly I think you'd ride and sending you something that relates to that. So I'll share more details later, but I just wanted to let you guys know of that opportunity and tell you guys to go sign up so you can get that free gift. Anyway, back to the origin story of Far Below Human Eyes. I wanted to share with you guys kind of what the first draft looks like and where it all began, and kind of share the steps of the journey, just in a general way, so you can get an idea of how much work it takes to transfer a story in your mind as a kid to a published book. So I wrote Far Below Human Eyes when I was 12 years old, and it was the second book I had ever written, but I actually didn't know how to type yet because I was super stubborn and I just refused to learn how to type. It was the stupidest thing. So I hand wrote the entire story, and it's not it's not as long as it is now, but just the ideas and the bones of the story are there. And so I still have the binder with me. This is what it looks like. It's all flowery and girly. And you open it, it has the whole book in there, the whole story, first draft. But I just wanted to share some details of how I had a whole system in writing this book when I was 12. So back when I was 12, instead of having a file where I could store my drafts or stuff that I was working on, I actually had this little blue envelope. So I don't know if you can see it, but it says the working honors because I was super dorky and I just thought it was clever and it was really dumb, but anyway. And if you open it up, I have blank paper on one side where I would have just a huge stock of it so I could use as much as I needed. And then on the other side, I would have the chapter I was working on. And I have a little quote from J.K. Rowling that always inspired me in a Peanuts comic strip. Not that it's really relevant, but you can see it here. And actually, if you see right here, is a little tally mark of my pages. Sorry, I just cut off my head there. So I would check each page off and tally them up at the end, on a calculator. That's how primitive my process was. So after the chapters were written, I would put them in these little envelopes, kind of like Pokemon cards, but just bigger. And then I would put the whole chapter there. You can see chapter 1, Harold. I would put it in this fancy cursive writing that was super curly because I thought it was so pretty. And I would handwrite every page. It was crazy. So you can see all my chapters here. There's a lot of them, but I would organize them by chapter, and then when the book was done, I had the full book. So now you've seen the origin behind the words on the paper, but the origin behind the story is obviously a little bit different. Back when I was 10, we moved, and in my old house, I had just so many friends. Our neighborhood was full of little girls that I could play with. And then we moved to this new neighborhood, and I swear everyone there was 50 years old or older. It was just there was no kids. I was so lonely, and I was homeschooled as well, so I didn't have anyone except for my brothers. And so instead of playing with my friends, I would go off and kind of explore in the open space in our backyard. And there was this little creek that ran behind our house, and there was a pond. And so I would go play in the pond, and we would like catch frogs, um, catch grasshoppers, try to catch fish. We would make little huts and like we would make boats to go down the streams. I just have the best memories at this pond. And actually, me and my brothers were super creative when we were kids. We would always just imagine um, games or worlds or things that we could create, different places we would go. So there was this one day that we were at the pond. We just called it the pond. And me and Owen, my brother, had this idea to have like this whole world where little people lived there, and they would ride dragonflies and ride the little boats that we would race down the river. And I've always been storytelling. I've been telling stories to myself in the third person since basically I could talk. And I had been writing stories since I was 7. So I had already been doing that for years. And when we came up with this idea, I was like, oh, that's a cool story idea. So one day I sat down and I just started writing the story about Harold, and how he had to catch a dragonfly because that's what they ride. And that's just where it started. I didn't really get deep into plotting or anything. That's just where the basic idea was fleshed out. So eventually, that basic story idea turned into a longer story idea. And then I ended up plotting out a whole book. And then I wrote out that whole book. And so it was a long process, but it all started with us just playing at this pond that was behind our house. A lot of people are shocked when I tell them I wrote a book when I was 12. And it is true, I did write a book when I was 12. But that book is nothing like Far Below Human Eyes is now. So a lot has changed since when I was 12 writing that story and now. It's almost unrecognizable. So I just want to share some of the changes to encourage you that the first draft of your story is always going to be terrible, and that's how it's supposed to be. So for instance, the first chapter in Far Below Human Eyes actually wasn't written until several years later. The story actually started originally on chapter 2. So I actually wrote the first chapter like years later. Another example would be when I did learn how to type, I had to transfer all of those words from the paper to the computer. And that was a whole process of rewriting. I didn't copy a single word from the original story to the second one. So I highly suggest rewriting your story if you can, because it is just so good for your story and it revises it so well. But once Far Below Human Eyes was on the computer, it went through, I want to say, 4 or 5 more drafts. So after that, I would go through it again and revise it again, editing out all the spelling mistakes, all of the sentences that were awkward, all the plot holes. I did that like 4 or 5 times. And for the first like 2 or 3 times, that was just on my own time, because I wanted to submit Far Below Human Eyes to the Scholastic Art and Writing competitions my freshman year of high school. And I had this book and I was like, I want to make it really good. I just need to edit it. So I edited it. I think that was the 3rd time I had gone through it at that point. And I entered it into that competition and I got an honorable mention that year, which I was super stoked about as a freshman. But all that's to say is your story will most likely go through at least 5 drafts, if not more. And that can be super intimidating when you're going into it, but it goes a lot faster and it's really exciting because you're really polishing the thing that you've been working on for so long, and it's exciting to see it becoming even more finished and even better. All right, so fast forward to the summer between my sophomore year and my junior year of high school. At this point, Far Below Human Eyes has been edited 4 times, I want to say, including the rewrite. It's already written. I've had people read it. I've had my dad read a couple chapters and give me advice on it. So I've been working on it for quite a bit at this point, and I think I'm ready to publish. So I start that process. The first thing I did was look for an agent. I had watched a ton of videos and read a ton of articles on publishing a book, and so many of them suggested that I find an agent first, especially with it being my first book. So I looked for an agent. I learned how to write a synopsis, um, and I sent my synopsis and my edited book to an agent. And that agent actually shot me down, said she does not want to work with me because I was so young at the time and I just had no experience. So I don't blame her at all. But I've learned as an author that collecting your no's and all the rejections you get is actually super important, because there's no way you're going to get a yes until you get so many no's. So I got rejected by this lady and she didn't want to work with me. Don't blame her at all. I was a stupid, like, 14-year-old or something. Um, and so at that point, I decided to just look for a publisher without an agent. I was like, I can do this by myself. Not always the wisest thought, but it ended up working out for me. Later that year, I submitted to Morgan James Publishing because my dad, he heard about the company and he knew of somebody who worked in there. So he suggested that I submit to them. And Morgan James is a little bit different than a regular traditional publisher. It's not a self-publishing company, but it's also not a traditional. So what they do is they take books in, they review them, they pick the ones that they think are going to do well, just like any traditional publisher, but they put all the marketing responsibilities and editing responsibilities on the author, and they really stress the importance of letting the author keep the rights to their story and letting them be super hands-on. So I was super excited about this because I wanted to learn a lot in the industry, and I was super young, still am, and I just wanted to learn a ton, right? I wanted the experience so I could become a better author. So I submitted my book to Morgan James fall of my junior year of high school. It's all kind of fuzzy for me. And actually, Halloween that year, I got my acceptance letter in my email, and it was just like a super weird day. I was trying to train or something, so I remember I was doing push-ups in my basement, and then I checked my phone mid push-up, and I got the email. Weird story, but I'd obviously stopped doing push-ups and was like dancing around afterwards. It was a good day. But yeah, that's how I was accepted to Morgan James. Now, my whole experience with Morgan James is a lot, so I'll probably save that for another video. But to kind of summarize it, it was a crazy year of learning how to write an elevator pitch, learning how to write the blurb on the back of the book, this kind of thing that you'll read. I had to learn how to write that. Editing again and again and again and again. Formatting and figuring out my author photo because I hadn't taken senior photos yet. So I was like, I don't have a good picture of me. It was just like a whole process that opened my eyes to what publishing really is. And I'd love to share that with you guys in more detail in another video. But today I just wanted to share with you how this guy was born. So anyway, Morgan James took care of all of the printing of the books and distribution and all of that. So Far Below Human Eyes officially hit bookstores April 27th, 2021. So like a few months ago, not that long ago. And it was an ebook on January 5th, 2021. So a little bit longer ago. But all that's to say, it's been almost 7 years of writing, editing, working my butt off, submitting, getting rejected, getting accepted sometimes. It's just been a roller coaster. And I want to be real with you guys, like, publishing and being an author is not always a joyride. It's a lot of work. I remember in high school, it was just so hard for me to balance school and sports and theater and all the things I did along with publishing, especially my senior year. That was a lot, and it was super stressful. So I'm not saying, I don't want you to think that it's always like rainbows and butterflies and just fun all the time. It's so worth it, and it's so fulfilling and just awesome. But, you know, nothing worth doing is ever easy all the time. But at the same time, it is doable. I just wanted to share my story tonight because I wanted to remind you that like I was 12 when I wrote this story. And yes, I put in years and years of work into it, but it was just because I loved it. And if I could write a crappy story when I was 12 and work hard enough to get it published, I know that you can too. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter if you're 10 or you're 65. If you put hard work into it and just grit your teeth and crank out a story, even though it's terrible in the first draft, even though editing sucks 90% of the time, even though it takes up hours of your time and sometimes it feels hopeless, it is so worth it. And your story needs to be heard. So, anyway, that's how Far Below Human Eyes came from this cheesy, girly binder to this, an actual book with my name on it. That's crazy. And a little dragonfly. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you can come back next week. And just as a reminder, if you guys want that free gift for me to decide what dragonfly I think you'd ride if you lived in the world of Far Below Human Eyes, just head to my website, annabellehealy.com, spelled exactly how it is on my channel, and enter your email in the subscription little box and just hit subscribe, and I will send you an email so you can claim that gift and I can pick a dragonfly for you. If I can write a crappy story with pencil and a super girly, nerdy binder when I'm 12, you can write a story too. Hope this helps. Happy writing, and thank you for watching.